Hello and welcome to my channel. I am Zodiac Bandit, and last week we looked at my favorite fights so far from Campaign 3, and now this week we're going to be looking at the best fights from Campaign 2, because I feel like doing this ranking fights thing, because the Ukatoa, or the reunion episode for Campaign 2, was really fun, and the Ukatoa fight was awesome, which is not going to be included in this list. I feel like that could be like a one-shot favorite fights or whatever, but I'm just not going to include it here. I feel like that'd be a little bit too recent, and recency bias might kick in. So that is not on this list. But otherwise, everything is free game from Campaign 2. So spoiler warning ahead if you're not caught up with Campaign 2. So yeah, moving on to the list.
Lorenzo looks back over towards Keg.
This is bad.
And looks up at you, Bo, and says, "An example it is." Molly, in the brief moments of consciousness, what do you want to be your last words?
Oh no!
Wait, can I say wait?
No.
He's in it? It's done?
This is done.
Do you get a reaction? Do you have anything?
Maybe I can talk to him.
Molly, you have a brief moment as the consciousness and life leaves you. What are your last words?
With blood.
Oh god!
As it kind of slams into his face. Respect. And then twists the blade. The life leaves Molly.
Eyes never shut.
It's not Prado's turn.
At number 5, we have the Fabulous Four versus the Iron Shepherds, which the Fabulous Four being Caleb, Not, Bo, and Molly, plus Keg, and obviously the Iron Shepherds being Lorenzo's gang. This is an awesome fight. This is one of the best fights in early Campaign 2. I really enjoy it. There's a lot of stakes here as they're trying to rescue their friends, and there's consequences to going into this fight with as little intel as they had, and with lower numbers. They were completely on the back foot here. They were outnumbered and outgunned literally by Lorenzo. Lorenzo by himself destroyed this battlefield. Caleb, or Liam, showing off his intelligence in this fight by running away, firing something big at the enemy, and then lying down to protect himself from ranged attacks was awesome. It was a really good strategy, and I really enjoyed that aspect from it. Really fun interactions with Not trying to sneak in and break out her friends inside the cages. Was unsuccessful at doing that. And then a massive cone of ice, or ice cone, came out and blasted all the cages, freezing some of the people inside, which made you even more fearful of what would happen to Jester, Ford, and Yasha, which is always fun. And obviously, Molly dies. And this is one of the biggest consequences to any of the fights in Campaign 2, as they had less people, they were underprepared, the ambush didn't go as well as they'd kind of hoped for, and instead of pulling out and trying later, they continued to fight and got decimated for it, so we ended up losing a player, and consequences are real and were shown even at a point where lots of people would start to say like death is less frequent in D&D, and you know what, after this point it doesn't happen very much after, but at level 5 usually you don't see too many deaths unless it's like multiple, including your cleric. Now the cleric was in fact in prison at this point, so there is that. But again, outgunned, on the back foot, under prepared. This fight had the consequences for all those actions, and I really like it. It's a fun fight, and your heart's racing the entire time. And if you don't know the outcome, which hopefully you knew before watching this, it's scary. You're on the edge of your seat, and not knowing when things will happen, how things will go down, if it goes well, because what happens if they lose? That's technically the end. Sure, you could have like a breakout stuff with Yasha, Jester, and Ford, but now all their friends are gone, and they have to go find new people, and that would be a weird situation. I wonder what would happen. That would have been weird. Anyway, excellent fight, lots of stakes, lots of consequences, and it was just super fun.
Okay. All right, that finishes Bo's go. Avantika's up next.
I should have done patient defense. I should have done it.
All right.
She can't see in here, I think.
She cannot see. But what she can do is control water.
Oh.
So, seeing these flames happen, she pulls back, closes her eyes for a second, and raises her scarred hand where the sphere that she unlocked Ukatoa with raised up. At that point, you watch as the water from the ocean begins to rise up.
Oh.
All right.
Oh God!
It's a fourth level spell. So I need you to roll.
I know.
Oh,
and it's
boy.
a disadvantage.
Disadvantage.
Where'd you go? Where'd you
I
go?
rolled a 14 and a 19. She fails.
She does.
I'm going to die tonight.
2 weeks of tension being released.
The orgasm is all under the table right now.
Holy shit!
At number 4, we have the Mighty Nine versus Avantika 1 in Dark Toe. This fight's awesome because it's kind of at a tense moment. We've kind of built up toward this very tense relationship being basically torn apart with Avantika, and it was always a when will they sort of stab her in the back sort of deal, and it finally happened as they were trying to expose her to the Plank King, and then all hell breaks loose. Obviously, the fire gets lifted and starts the whole thing off. Bo and Caleb begin running their way up to the Plank King, and it's super fun. And this is the first time I believe Ford uses his like summoning abilities, which is also really badass. So ultimately, just a really fun fight, and the stakes were huge. But the best part of this fight for me is the fact that it's not a war of attrition. Can we kill our enemy first? It is more so, can we hold off a portion of the enemy and then get to the Plank King and like convince him that we're in the right here? Because there was no way they were going to be able to fight off Avantika and then face the rest of Dark Toe. They would have had to have killed Avantika and then fleed immediately without anything sort of happening to them. But in the end, they convinced the Plank King that she was trying to, get rid of him, usurp him, and it ends with one of the most interesting deaths for a villain. Instead of it being by the hands of the players, it's by the hands of the Plank King, and I find that to be extremely fascinating. It doesn't happen too often where we get to see somebody else sort of take out one of our baddies, but in this instance, Avantika might have been a little too strong for the Nine, so having somebody else come in and sort of instantly show their dominance was very interesting to me. And this fight was just fun overall. You got to see a lot of really quick thinking, and and like that clip I just showed you, you got to see a lot of stress being relieved as certain things happened and went the way they were, or the way they wanted it to. This was, I believe, one of the first fights where they kind of made a plan going into it, and it sort of worked the way they wanted to perfectly. That would only happen a few more times in all of Critical Role, so seeing it here was really fun. I love this fight, and the minis and the set piece for the fight itself looks awesome, and just ultimately makes me want to play with minis on that level. I really love the pirate ship, the wall of fire, the Balraga once it gets summoned is awesome, and just so much cool stuff from the mini perspective. This fight is just nice to look at and really cool. And there's a mixture of mini fighting, and then there's a mixture of the word's escaping me now. Imagination. Your imagination, you know what I'm saying. There's a combination of the actual minis and just, in your mind. So, theater of the mind. That was the word I was looking for ages there. Theater of the mind play and mini play, and that's always fun for me to see a combination of the two. So yeah, awesome fight.
So, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cast Dispel at level 5 at the back of Yasha's neck.
5th level?
5th level.
Come on.
That works. So, as you appear and you turn, the Varrock harrowing Yasha, she spins around, blade ready. You see Beauregard over there bleeding to death on the top of the altar. Ford is sitting there desperately backing up as you focus and concentrate. The light around the cathedral fades, and darkness of the clouds above take the space as you open your hand and concentrate and feel the Wild Mother's energy course through you. The Dispel magic emanates from her neck, and you watch the symbol burn bright and then shatter. And as it does,
Lightning strikes the outside. All of the stained glass windows shatter at once, raining down into the center of the cathedral.
Oh, wow.
Yasha grabs the back of her neck, and for the first time in as long as you can remember, Oban's out of her head.
I let out a primal scream of agony and relief and everything and just fall on my knees.
In third is the fight between Oban, the Laughing Hand, Yasha, versus the Mighty Nine in the Cathedral in Rexxentrum. This fight to me is awesome and is like sort of the beginning of Yasha's culmination as a character as she finally gets to come back permanently. She's no more fucking blind spot. And, you know, when Yasha gets turned back to the side of good and when everyone sort of works together and is able to finally kill the Laughing Hand, with the exception of Not, because Not got taken down below by Oban. It's just a fun fight. It's a really fun fight with a ton of their stuff being used for the first time. We get to see a handful of really big spells from Caleb. We get to see Bo nearly get executed by Yasha, which, you know, thinking back on it, is kind of a huge moment in their relationship. It could have ended it all, literally, as they might have both died. And actually, something I learned very recently is, according to, the heck's his name? Brian from Talks Machina, he got a text saying that if Yasha had killed Bo, that probably would have been it for Yasha as well. She probably wouldn't have continued. So that's interesting. But this whole fight is just really fun. It is a fight between... It had multiple objectives: killing Laughing Hand, getting Yasha back, and then pursuing Oban. And this fight was awesome. Not to mention, we had good old Pumat Soul in the battle, who was turned himself into a giant and started whirling around wind and shit. It was really cool. You know, it's just a really fun fight. I really enjoyed all of it. We got to see Ford use some, like, health transfer abilities at one point, and I ultimately really like how Caduceus is the person to free Yasha. Because Caduceus kind of came in and became, like, a parent and guide to a lot of people, mainly Ford and Yasha. So then after this point, Yasha sort of looked to Caduceus as a guiding light. And it was really nice as throughout the rest of the game, Caduceus pushes her to do other things, and it all realistically stems here, as Caduceus was Molly's replacement after Molly died. This being a way for, you know, not necessarily for Yasha to repent, but for not being there for the fight, but also like a nice little thing between players as their characters were connected before and now they get to be connected again. To me, that was really fun. Really enjoyed everything to do with this fight, both story-wise and action-wise. I really enjoyed it. And again, the set pieces that Matt is able to put together is friggin' insane and makes me totally jealous of all of his endless resources to be able to put together these gorgeous maps.
Is it a 20 or is it a 1?
I see it.
20?
What is it? Is it bad?
It's a 20. It's going to go to who he wants it to.
So Caleb,
Yeah.
as you are preparing the spell and you bring it back, you can feel the arcane energy crackling in your
Right,
fingers.
I break open a bag of dust underwater
Which
and
kind of floats for a
press
second?
the lodestone through. I'm going to kill Vokodo, obviously.
And as you release the green ray, you watch as Vokodo, eyes wild, there's this shimmer as the kinetic psychic energy around it that seems to be deflecting the spells pushes against and resists the spell, and it fails. Oh. How do you want to do this?
In my head!
Roll a natural one. Fucking natural one.
Roll it. What did you say?
A natural one.
Whoa, a 1 out of 20.
I don't want to say anything.
The light that has been gleaming out of its mouth all this time, the beam of dark green energy leaves the palm of my hand like Spider-Man and goes straight through that light, pierces through, right through, and to stay in thematically with our episode, goes in the mouth and out the butthole. Straight through in a line. Thank you for whoever laughed.
And at number 2, I have the Mighty Nine versus Vokodo. Fucking love this fight. First of all, the underwater sort of feel to it, which allowed them to have sort of elevation, was awesome. The fact that they were able to breathe underwater due to basically Vokodo deciding they were allowed to, And eventually, I believe somebody else cast Breathe Water, eventually, which, you know, counteracts that. But this fight was wild. There's so much shit going on in this fight. First of all, there's the fight beforehand, getting to it, which was swimming through this wild shit as Vokodo tries to mess with your mind as you get there, and trying to remember all the things that you have to even, you know, put up a fight. You have to remember the day before, or as you're going into the thing, that you're here to fight, which is interesting to me. And then obviously Vokodo being this big squid monster from a different plane makes him very alien. So when we get to this underwater portion of it, he's kind of huge and scary and intimidating. And the map, oh, fuck. I was just talking about the map for the Cathedral, but this map is awesome. I cannot emphasize enough how much I love this map. This map, to me, is probably one of my favorite maps ever made. There's 2 more that beat it map-wise for me from Matt. So, yeah, crazy map. I love the setting for everything, so underwater. The fight itself is sick. Vokodo can basically deflect magic spells, so it becomes very much the magic people are now support for the physical fighters, but he is so massive to the point where when they get close, he can sort of just beat the shit out of them, and it's really fun. So it's a really good balance of support and attack and support and attack, and eventually, once the moment feels right, Caleb does disintegrate him, which could have ended terribly, and according to Matt, had he missed that, he probably would have aimed that deflection at Jester, which would have killed her at that point in time. And the reason he would have done that is because we were on Traveler Con Island, so that would have been something, and would have rendered Jester's body completely disintegrated, which would have been awful. But yeah, this fight was awesome. It had some interesting stakes, as if they had lost, the people on the island of Rumblecusp would have never gotten their memories back, and Traveler Con would have never happened, which would have sucked, because Traveler Con was filled with some of the most hilarious moments of all time. So this fight was the sort of catalyst to leading toward Traveler Con, and with that behind it and how awesome the fight was in general, it's an excellent fight. Really love it, really enjoy it.
Don't see any variation. Okay. You just see him walk off into the snow and turn around angrily.
I thought that there was like that they were like lit up or something. And
correct. The energy on Typhul's sword has not vanished.
Okay.
Okay. That brings us to Kree, who is going to cast slow on all of you.
Bitch.
Counterspell that. Wait. Caleb's here.
What's going on?
Caleb's counterspelling it.
Where is
I would like to counterspell at 4th level.
Kree's over there.
Next to me?
Yes.
I see the slow and I would like to counterspell.
Does that count as an action or a reaction?
Counterspell?
Yeah.
It's a reaction.
I have a counterspell.
Will you still be able to do other things?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll counterspell. Because Caleb's
Counterspell?
not here.
What's the range on counterspell?
60 feet.
60 feet.
oh shit.
Okay. Otis is going to counterspell your counterspell.
Well, that's
Oh, Caleb.
Caleb will counterspell the counterspell.
We need you.
Which he would do.
We would totally
He would
do it.
I don't. I want to.
We should wait till he gets back.
I should wait till he gets back.
Right.
I know.
So we'll go to the bathroom and get him. Wait, we need you. Get back here.
counterspell.
What's going on? Wait, tell me what happened. Tell me what happened.
So Kree cast slow on that group of all of you right there.
Right.
Ford counterspelled it. Otis counterspelled
I've
his
been thinking
counterspell.
counterspell for fucking hour. Counterspell.
Is this a triple counterspell?
Yes, it is.
Bling, blong, bling, bling.
Oh my gosh.
Triple stamp.
At 4th level. At 4th level.
Slow fails. The counterspell from Ford goes through. Otis's counterspell is negated by you.
Ooh.
That's some blue magic shit right
That is
there.
all
for
I've been
magic.
fucking thinking for an hour.
I reek. I smell so bad.
Yeah,
right now. I've got
Caduceus.
Ha! The final boss fight wasn't my favorite fight. I believe final boss fights should have their own list, and once Campaign 3 wraps up, I'll have another video. So, there's that. But this fight is awesome. It's technically the first fight between the Mighty Nine and the Tomb Takers. It's the late night snow fight, as I like to call it. I love this fight. This fight is awesome. They have virtually no resources going into this fight, which makes it even more tense, knowing that they've used up a lot of their resources, while the Tomb Takers have used butt fuck all. Because in the early portion of this episode, they also fight a dragon, and basically the Mighty Nine have to do the heavy lifting in that fight. And yeah, it ends up making them very hurting, so they have to get into the tower, rest up. But Ford notices that Otis, the little goddamn bastard, has stolen his bag of holding, so they run after him because they want to make sure they have all their stuff, and they have a threshold crest that they can't allow the others to have, because that's how they're going to end up getting the living city back into the real realm, or away from the astral sea into the prime, what is it called? The regular realm. I'm just going to call it that, because I'm losing my mind. But this fight's awesome. They fly up behind them, grab Otis immediately, and some people end up losing their transformation as they're flying toward them, because this is where it's revealed that Lucian has an eye cone of dispel magic. I forget what it's called. Anti-magic field. And it's badass. We learn so much about Lucian in this fight and the rest of the Tomb Takers, and it's friggin' amazing. This is such a fun fight, and it's super long. Like, the second half of this entire episode, which went longer than usual, was dedicated to this. And eventually they realized they can't get this bag, and they need to get away before they start losing people. And at that cue, they start losing people pretty quickly. Like, Caduceus gets hurt pretty bad, Bo gets hurt pretty bad, and it's starting to look like it's going to spiral really badly unless they start running. And then eventually they're able to get themselves out by a series of counter spells that you just saw, and transformations that allow them to run away at a faster pace, and the Tomb Takers can come after them. But the excitement this fight makes you feel, and the worry of there's going to be someone to die here today. That is something that went through my mind immediately, knowing that they had way less resources than the 5 Tomb Takers. And then even knowing that there's an anti-magic field floating around that battlefield, terrifying. Absolutely terrifying. It was going to end up so badly, and it almost did. They luckily got out. I think Matt kind of niced them here by letting them sort of get away a little bit. I'm certain one of the Tomb Takers could have done something to speed up and catch up to them and start messing shit up. But Matt kind of let them go, let them get away, and pursued them for a little while before they could rest up fully and were able to teleport out. But seriously, this to me is one of the most tense fights that isn't a final boss fight. Like I said already, final boss fights get their own list eventually once Campaign 3 wraps up. But this fight, to me, set the tone for the rest of the Campaign 2 at that point. The tone had been set once they reached the Islecross area, but this fight really said where the pecking order was for the Tomb Takers and the Mighty Nine relationship. And that was, Tomb Takers don't give a shit about the Mighty Nine. And I friggin' loved it. And it was great because up to this point they were working together to grab shit. And then once Lucian saw his opportunity to up his position and everything, he did it. And it's perfect. It's amazing. Love every second of this fight. So there you have it. My favorite fights from Campaign 2. Love all these fights. And of course, boss fights will eventually happen. A boss fight video, final boss fight video will happen. So that'll be including Campaigns 1, 2, and 3. EXU, the first set of 8 episodes of EXU, and EXU Calamity. I can't think of an EXU Kaimal fight that's considered a final boss, because it didn't really have one. So yeah, it'll be those 5. Calamity, first set of EXU episodes, and then Campaign 1, 2, and 3. That'll be a video eventually, but as of right now, this was my list of my favorite fights from Campaign 2. I might do this video again for Campaign 1 next week, but I might come up with something else to do because Campaign 3 is coming back and I would like to talk about them a bit more. So we shall see when that Campaign 1 video comes out. So yeah, until then, peace.